This is Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about.
You all ready for this?
This is a sham.
No.
Y'all, just stop. Get real.
Welcome to DBL. I'm Sam in for Tori. We miss you, girl. Happy Friday, everybody. How you feeling?
Hey, feeling good with the yellow.
I think it's more like a neon green.
I don't know. What do you say, Jeff? You be the...
I'm on strike.
Okay, Jeff's on strike already.
You're on strike every day but Friday afternoon.
Huh?
You're on strike every day but Friday afternoon, according to your neighbors.
Oh, yeah, you're talking to your neighbors at 5 o'clock today.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Listen, I'm Jeffrey during the week. On the weekend, Big Jeff Scott.
There it is.
Wow.
I love it.
Oh, I got to clap for Big Jeff. He's here.
Okay, like that. You like that. All right, let's get to it. So I know that many of you may have heard. If not, it is official. Hollywood is shut down after members of the Actors Union, known as SAG-AFTRA, voted unanimously to go on strike. They are joining members of the Writers Guild on the picket line as they demand better pay and streaming residuals from studio bosses. At the UK premiere of Oppenheimer yesterday, A-list celebrities including Matt Damon, Emily Blunt, Florence Pugh. I'm pausing to see if Killian, there's Killian, I see him. He's in the black suit.
That was professional.
Robert Downey Jr. and more made an early exit, leaving the red carpet as news of the strike loomed. Big budget blockbusters currently in the works are now completely shut down, including Ariana Grande's Wicked, Deadpool 3 with Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, Gladiator 2, and even the Beetlejuice sequel. So what are the two sides saying about the strike? Listen to what Disney CEO Bob Iger had to say about negotiating with actors.
We managed as an industry to negotiate a very good deal with the Directors Guild that reflects the value that the directors contribute to this great business. We wanted to do the same thing with the writers, and we'd like to do the same thing with the actors. There's a level of expectation that they have that is just not realistic, and they are adding to a set of challenges that this business is already facing that is, quite frankly, very disruptive.
So they're not being realistic?
No, they're not.
So that's according to one studio head. Meantime, SAG-AFTRA president Fran Drescher is hitting back. Let's watch.
I cannot believe it, quite frankly, how far apart we are on so many things, how they plead poverty, that they're losing money left and right when giving hundreds of millions of dollars to their CEOs. It is disgusting. We're not going to keep doing incremental changes on a contract that no longer honors what is happening right now with this business model that was foisted upon us. What are we doing? Moving around furniture on the Titanic?
So what do you think of this major labor dispute and what it will mean for viewers and everyone else whose livelihood depends on Hollywood? Jeff, you had a lot to say yesterday after hearing from Bob Iger and Fran Drescher, friend of the show.
Yeah.
What are you feeling now?
Well, I am a member of SAG, right? And it doesn't affect.
And
I don't. People at home might not know because I really don't understand, right? There's different unions and things, and we're hosts. We're not considered actors in that sense. California and Colorado, I think, have different laws. So it goes deeper than even I know, and I'm part of that union. I think everyone is for the actors on, when you just hear them talk. But Bob Iger, he's a self-made man. He's built his way up through that company, right? And I respect him. I read his book. And listen, they got to make money too. I understand this is going to hurt them big time. If the actors go on strike, they got to make money for their corporation, their investors, things like that. This is going to hurt them. But on the side of the actors, you got to iron out the AI thing. You have to iron that out. The residuals for streaming service, that's where all the business is going now. You got to iron those details out. So I get the actor side on this. We were talking to a friend yesterday who's a makeup artist, and she worked for Marvel, big movies, right? She's a waitress now in Los Angeles because she can't work and she's got to pay her bills. And we were talking to her last night. She's like, my feet are killing me. I make like 1,800 steps a day. I can't believe I'm serving and bartending again. But you just think about, we show like Matt Damon and Bob Iger. What about the people who are now in LA living their dream and working on it with Marvel and now are waiters?
Yep.
That's who it's hurting.
That's the majority of those SAG-AFTRA members and the Writers Guild. What would you say? And how long do you think this is going to last?
Sam, it really put me back on my heels when Fran Drescher said, I can't believe how far apart we are on this. Have you ever been in a disagreement with somebody about something and their stance is so radically different than yours that you like lose hope almost immediately. Like, we can't find any middle ground if that's what you think I'm mad about and this is what I'm upset about. It seems like that's what she was saying, because when you start talking about unions and demands to somebody that's not in the world of the Hollywood, if you started talking about that as it pertained to GM, I wouldn't understand the difference between what a brake manufacturer should get and what, you know, the guys that do the body and the engine. It's too much in the weeds. What people need to understand is the system that we live under, capitalism, the word capitalizes in that. And it means that you are going to capitalize at every single step. And when you get to this point of being a CEO of Disney or being the CEO of whatever, when you can set your own salary, Jeff or Sam, you guys would sit down. You guys are bleeding heart, good people. You guys would be like, what's fair? The people that make it to that level will cut your head off and step on it to get one more rung up, to get more money that they will never spend. These people, there's something wrong with the people that are billionaires. Normal people stop and enjoy their families. The people that make it to this level are sociopathic in the way that they go after money. That's why their salaries are 200 and 300 and 400% what the people underneath them make. Only people that have something going on with their wiring can do that. And that's why it will not stop until there's a strike. And I don't think they'll stop until they've buried the actors.
Wow. That's what a lot of people fear, especially in that industry. Let me talk about those salaries really quickly. Bob Iger, $195 million, but he was at that point, I think it's more like he makes around $29 million a year. So think of it that way, $29 million.
Which isn't a lot. If you think about it, there are people who make a lot more.
$29 million a year, not 4 years. $29 million a year, right?
Ish.
Okay.
Ish, yes. But
and then also to your point about $498 million, that is the Warner Brothers Discovery, so that's about $100 million a year spread over 4 years. Go ahead, sorry.
No, I just think Bob Iger's name is more out there, so people are blaming him, the man we just saw. And his salaries, actors make that per movie.
The A-list ones.
The A-list ones, right? Absolutely, absolutely. But you got to think, like reading his book, you don't even know the details that go. He's going to Tokyo to open Disneyland and bring, you know, there's more that goes in it just to say, like, I picked this movie and now I'm going to go smoke a cigar.
Let's put Bob on the side, because $29 million might make sense a year-ish.
I'm not saying you shouldn't be thoroughly compensated.
Okay,
I'm just saying when it gets...
But $500 million a year?
Do you think almost $500 million spread over 4 years?
I just don't... When other people aren't getting a sliver of that, when the pie is so... When it looks crazy just to the naked eye, something needs to be done. And this is what happens when you don't have things to regulate certain industries. People are going to make their own salaries, and certain people are going to suffer interminably.
What do you guys...
I was just going to use a baseball analogy, because some guys get paid $500, $700 million over 10 years, and their counterparts on the same team aren't even close to that. So there's why do I always reach for the big word?
Yeah, no, but you're right.
But there is, you know what I'm saying? Disparities, right?
And we as
between different things, yeah.
We as the fans look at that, but you have to look at who draws people to the stadium. We're sitting here in Denver. We're going to talk about it. Taylor Swift.
But they don't blame that guy. But they're blaming.
They don't.
You know.
But we're only looking at entertainment, and we shouldn't, because I think our viewers feel very distant to that. Fran Drescher said something in her speech where she said, we're going to be replaced by machines. She's not alone in feeling that. I know UPS, FedEx, they're all on the brinks of a strike because they fear the same thing. So there's a lot of industries right now that are very nervous that AI will be replacing them. So to the people watching thinking that this sounds completely like you can't wrap your head around it because it would never happen to you, grocery workers, fast food workers, they're all on the precipice of facing AI taking their jobs.
What about teachers? Is it that implausible to think that a chemistry teacher can't have one of their lectures recreated?
I hope
Chemistry
not.
doesn't change every year. You could take one of those and farm it out to the entire country. We're getting to the point where human beings are replaceable, and we need to figure out what we're going to do as a species.
Amen. Amen. All right, well, coming up on DBL, who brought cocaine into the White House? Yeah, we're talking all about the crazy investigation and our interview with Raven-Symoné and her wife, Miranda Pierman Mayday. Why is their podcast the best ever?
DBL, this show is amazing.
There's a lot going on down here.
I would have been part of the Mile High Club.
Yeah.
So on point.
But I'm going to have a conversation about what's happening now.
Because Bob
was telling
Tigers
Jeff,
is a
the
little bit
people that are
off
CEOs,
because of what you said earlier
there
about the 4
is
years.
a
Can I just say
reason
around
they have
29
that
million
much money.
a year?
There are people that
Okay,
are
but we'll
wealthy.
be
You have
sure,
friends
but
that
can
are
we
wealthy. I have
focus on
friends that
maybe
are
his
wealthy.
yearly
Not
as
like
opposed
that.
to
Not
the
like
4
that.
years
No,
of what
that's
you
what I'm
said?
saying. Like
Yeah.
regular wealthy, like, hey,
Yeah, let's
you're
maybe
not,
do years.
you could not work for 5 years and be
Let's
okay.
iron that out for
Your
you.
mom, your
Maybe
dad,
1 or 2.
Those
Yeah,
people
yeah.
are doing okay. But then there's that thing where like.
Right.
People that go to jail,
Right.
even though they have $800 million because
Or
they're
maybe
involved
we
in
can
some
just
kind of
estimate-
investment scheme, it's because the money, the way it's
I think the Warner
represented to
Brothers
you and
one is
I,
pretty outstanding.
and taking care of your
So
family.
that's almost
that's
$100
not-
million a year if you broke it down.
It's about power and about dominance, and it's about hoarding wealth.
And I'm
That's
with
why
you.
the top 1% has all the money, because these people hoard the wealth and don't let any trickle out. Warren Buffett, who famously is like, I don't spend any money. I eat burgers and have ice cream. Well,
He could settle the debt.
he could do whatever he wants.
No,
but
literally, he could
but
settle the debt.
There's a
I think,
reason
right?
he doesn't.
I
yeah.
saw that meme. I don't know if
There's
that's
a
true.
reason he doesn't.
But you think, like, so Amazon, I don't know how true this was. Did you hear about people, like, going to the bathroom in a bucket because they didn't
Yes,
get breaks and things like
yes.
that? I don't know how true that is. But if there
seems
is some
pretty
truth
true.
to that, if you think Bezos makes X amount a year, wouldn't he give back to his company so there aren't those rumors, or his employees are treated better than anywhere else in the world?
But you have to continue to
But then you
increase
buy a half a
profitability for your
billion dollar boat
stockholders.
or something. You know what I mean?
The way that you increase
I know,
profitability is by
I know.
firing people and not paying people what they deserve. That's the way you
But if I
capitalize.
had a company, and again, I don't know, if I had a company, I'd say, I'm going to give back, make this the best environment to work in ever.
Yes.
People who want to work hard and want jobs, I'm going to reward you with that.
Yes, and
Part of my
Kelly's
salary is
nodding
going
her
back
head.
into that.
You would be out of business because of another.
Welcome back to DBL. The mystery of who brought cocaine into the White House.
It was that bear.
After the Secret Service announced yesterday that they had closed their investigation without identifying a suspect, they said there was a lack of evidence after poring over hours and hours of surveillance footage and found no fingerprints or DNA on the baggie of drugs. Some Republicans are furious, accusing the Biden administration of a quote-unquote cover-up. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy said that this is another example of the Biden family getting special treatment. Meantime, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene is wondering why the Secret Service isn't doing more. Take a look.
Makes no sense to me whatsoever why they would not follow through on one simple task, and that is to drug test a list of 500 people that they have that are potential suspects for this.
So what do we think? Does this pass the sniff test?
What would a drug test do? You
Just
couldn't
let that joke go, dude?
What's that? Oh, I didn't even hear the sniff test joke. Man, it's Friday.
Credit to Michael Dean, not me.
Yes.
I'm not good at jokes.
That was good. I just, I look at it, I'm like, is this what we're spending our time on as a country? I mean, this is such a gotcha moment. Whose cocaine it was? I mean, do we really want to start looking for cocaine in workplaces? Do we really want to do that, Wall Street? Do we really want to do that, the sports organizations, WWE? Do we really want to do that anywhere where there are rich people?
Why you
There's
single out the
cocaine.
Wrestling
not too
Federation,
far-
dude?
Because have you seen the documentaries?
I know. I'm just
Have
saying.
you seen them? I mean, look, anytime there's rich people around, there's cocaine. You want to start testing yachts? Come on, dog.
I
Come
gotcha.
on, dog. It's like, stop. Can we stop acting like we're shocked by this, Jeff?
Yeah, here's the thing. Like, politics, right? People are like, this is Hunter Biden's coke that he brings. Come on, man. We got to stop with that, right?
So you know he was not.
But I
premise
understand people like go so crazy
He's
with
not
these
El
stories.
Chapo, though, the way they're talking about him. He's one dude. He's like,
He
look
does.
at
He
it.
does do some crazy
He's
stuff.
been hanging out.
And films it. and films it. Yeah, but here's my problem with this thing. There's got to be cameras of every corner of the White House, right? And especially where you're checking in. If someone pulls a gun, you want every angle of who that person is and what that suspect does. There is a camera on that exact cubby where that cocaine is. but they don't have that cocaine. That's where people stop trusting the government. Jeffrey Epstein's assassinated, but 2 cameras are shut off at the same time, and they like all this. And then when you start doing things like that, that's when the distrust starts to happen. It's not the Biden administration, it's the government. And if there's no video and you're not going to release it, you're lying to us. So if you're lying about that, what else are you lying about?
Okay, but Jeff, there's
a camera right on it.
I almost said there's cocaine in our dressing room. I was about to say there's cameras.
There's absolutely not.
No, I'm saying I was about to make a point. Everybody calm down and stop acting like, stop. All right, we got adults. It's annoying.
All right.
It's annoying. But, you know, in our hallway, there are cameras. Let's say that there was something illegal found in our dressing room. Somebody be like, well, there's a camera on the hallway. How many people are going in? How do you prove these things? It's not whether it's there. It's how do you prove these beyond a doubt?
True.
And the incredible amount of man and woman power it would take to figure that out is, I think, more than what this probably constitutes.
And just so you know, just got word from our producers, the Secret Service did say there is no camera specifically right on that cubby. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
Bank of America has been ordered to pay $250 million in fines and refunds to customers. Federal regulators say the bank broke the law with junk fees and deceptive credit card sales practices. The bank has been specifically ordered to refund $80 million of non-sufficient fund fees, which are similar to overdraft fees. So, will eligible customers have to take any action to get their money, or will it go out automatically? Let's verify. Our sources are the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and the consent order in this case. Until last year, Bank of America charged something called a non-sufficient fund fee. It's like an overdraft fee, but instead of the bank covering the withdrawal and billing you later, a non-sufficient fund fee declines the transaction, but still charges you $35. It's not illegal, though the CFPB has been critical of them, and many big banks, including B of A, have stopped charging them at all. What was illegal was a sort of double-dipping process. Say you go to purchase something at the store, but they run your debit card and you have insufficient funds, so you get charged a fee. Seeing that the transaction didn't go through, the cashier runs your card again. For years, Bank of America charged the fee again. The CFPB says that practice was illegal because it served no purpose but making the bank money, and there's no way for you to prevent someone from running your card twice. The Bureau pursued a case against Bank of America, but before it got to court, B of A agreed to a consent order, which is sort of like a settlement.
The order says that they have 90 days to come up with a plan for identifying which customers need to be refunded, and then 60 days after that plan is approved to send the money out, with notices explaining what it's for.
So the answer is no. You don't have to do anything to get your refund. It'll be automatically sent to eligible customers through direct deposit or paper check.
And those should arrive by mid-December.
With your Verify, I'm Casey Decker.
Welcome back. Since they tied the knot 3 years ago, Raven-Symoné and Miranda Pierman-Mayday have been cracking us up on their YouTube channel. Now they've made a podcast together. That's not just good, it's the best podcast ever. Earlier, we talked with them about it. Check it out. Welcome to the show, Raven-Symoné and Miranda Pierman-Mayday.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Hello. Raven, Miranda, so nice to have you both here. But Raven, I want to ask you, because you two recently celebrated your 3-year anniversary. So what do you think has been the most unexpected part of married life?
Yeah. Oh, the most unexpected part?
Yeah.
I want to know the answer to this too.
Yeah, so do I.
The most unexpected part is the changes that yourself makes in order to create a good environment in a positive way. You know, a lot of the times people are like, it's in my way. A lot of the times people are like, don't change yourself, but there's a difference between seeing your flaws and wanting to change in order to make a great environment and changing yourself to appease someone else. Mm-hmm. So, you know, not moving this lime right now for me is definitely a journey.
Free. On the internet. Get out of here.
Oh, she's trying to hide her foot.
I'm hiding my foot.
Okay, well, I'm going like this thing. Anyway, hi, you guys.
Listen, I got to tell you, I love the real interaction. I think fans will too. So, Miranda, is there anything new you've learned about Raven while doing this podcast? Because me and my wife just started one, and I almost find it therapeutic in some sort of way. We get things out that we normally wouldn't talk about.
Yeah, totally. I learned that Raven loves all of her theme songs. I learned that if Raven could have a throuple scenario, she'd want Cassie in the mix.
Oh!
That was really new to me because every time that we've ever had a conversation, it's like, Amanda Seyfried, it's like white girl fantasy, and then all of a sudden she was like, Cassie. I was like, oh, Cassie. Okay, cool. Cassie's way more like
I don't discriminate.
Anyway. What else have I learned? I don't know. I mean, those are two good nuggets of knowledge.
Dip that in your soy sauce. Let's go.
Oh, I like it.
Nice.
Raven,
Dip that in your soy
I have
sauce.
to ask you, you got a ton of experience interviewing folks on The View. How would you compare that to this podcast? Did you take some of that experience and bring it over here?
Most definitely. I learned a lot from The View. I learned how important it is to have a great editor and not go live.
Yeah.
I learned how right now. Exactly. I know. I learned how important it is to have a great structure to your interview so that you as the host and the guest have fun, which is why I love the best podcast ever with Raven and Miranda, because this is not your typical interview. When you come on our podcast, we spin a wheel. It lands on a random word. My wife and I don't even know what it is. And we talk about that. So let's say, for instance, Tom Cruise comes on. We're not going to be talking about his extra amazing stunt that he just did for Mission Impossible 16.
We're going to no idea what you're talking about.
We're going to be talking about, his shampoo choices, because that's what I really care about, that thick head of hair on his head. I'm trying to think.
You guys are cracking me up. I could watch like a whole series on YouTube. Miranda, your deadpan is priceless. So you recently watched Raven's movie, The Cheetah Girls, for the first time ever. You have to give us a review. What did you think?
What did I think? It was great. I loved it so much. I know. I sound like I totally understand now why people run up to her at Best Buy and they're like, I love the Cheetah.
I love a Best Buy run. That's one of my favorite runs. A Best Buy run.
But you know what I mean? I'm just
the Geek
now,
Squad, man.
Now I understand it. And even though I hadn't watched it as a kid, I felt the nostalgia. And there's something so special about those Disney movies. I don't know, they just get you. And the music and the dance, you were great, superb. I want to strut in Barcelona.
I love it. You two are too funny. Raven and Miranda, thank you so much for chatting with us today. DBL Nation, be sure to listen to the best podcast ever, wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks again. We'll be right back. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
With fire season upon us, viewers want to know which plants are fire safe in the yard around the house and which ones are not. So let's verify. Which types of plants are fire resistant? My sources are the Fire Safe Council of San Diego County and Tiger Palafox, plant expert and manager at Mission Hills Nursery.
Having that gap of fire safe plants helps because it stops the spread of the fire.
According to the Fire Safe Council of San Diego County, one of the best native plants for defensible space is the ceanothus, commonly called the California lilac.
This plant has green foliage, very watery filled stems, self-cleaning, not a lot of debris underneath it.
Another fire-safe plant on the list is the yarrow.
They spread, they're low growing, very clean, not a lot of debris under them. So this acts like a good ground cover, but at the same time, it's very pretty while doing it.
And rounding out the top three is the manzanita.
Manzanitas are very hardwood plants, which means that it's very difficult for them to catch fire initially, but they do hold a lot of water in their foliage at the same time. So if a fire comes through, it's going to slow it down tremendously.
So we can verify that ceanothus, yarrow, and manzanita are fire-resistant plants. But what kinds are more prone than others to catching fire?
Juniper, very good. You see it, you think it's evergreen, low growing. You think it would act as a really good fire break. But at the same time, junipers have a lot of oils in them, and that can catch fire. This is rosemary. Wonderful fragrance, wonderful blue flower, great to use as an herb, but at the same time has oils in it that are very flammable.
And rounding out the list is a tree native to Australia, the eucalyptus.
Number one, the oil in them catches fire and actually creates an explosion. So the plants begin to pop and they begin to crack and explode, which then sends embers all over the place. The fire will climb the tree, and then as it's climbing the tree, it acts as dynamite and actually explodes.
So we can verify that junipers, rosemary, and eucalyptus are not safe around your home when it comes to resisting fires. With your Verify, I'm Brian White for CBS 8.
Are you skeptical of headlines and what you see on social media? We are too. The Verify newsletter answers your questions, clarifies what's true and false, and even includes a daily fun fact. Go to verifythis.com/email to check it out.
Online businesses are hiring workers to make returns for you. Let's connect the dots. More companies believe if you can order something to your door in just a day, you should be able to return it just as fast. A company called Optoro is unveiling home pickups. It offers retailers the option for customers to make returns from the comfort of their home without any boxes or labels. It's all to help companies and their bottom line. Home pickups help retailers and brands spend less time restocking products. It also saves more than 15% on shipping costs because fewer people have to handle that package. For customers, it would be as simple as using an online portal. While not every retailer is using the technology quite yet, it is becoming more popular. So keep an eye out the next time you need to send something back. And that is Connecting the Dots.
Welcome back. If you've envied your neighbor's green grass, it's time to turn the tables by making your patio the perfect place to be. Here are some easy ways to upgrade your situation with Sunsetter. Daydream in your backyard. Oh yes, on a swinging hammock. Yep. Also, inflatable hot tubs are easy to set up and move around if you have limited space. The easiest way to make your backyard shine is by adding some lights.
Just got some of those.
String lights can make for an enchanted evening, or just invite some friends over. Celebrate, a little special occasion. Why not? Sunsetter is America's #1 best-selling awning with affordable custom features without the custom price. Spend more time outside and get the best value with Sunsetter. It's been an industry leader for 30 years. Call 1-800-513-6851 or visit sunsetter.com for guaranteed pricing on American-made awnings built to last. I love a good backyard.
Sam, your backyard is amazing.
I love a good.
Do you have lights everywhere?
We have like twinkle lights in the trees. We have a swinging hammock, but the mosquito problem has really.
Which I talked with you yesterday.
Yes.
Yes,
So
my mosquito repellent, it's great. I've been working on the backyard.
Yes. Let everybody know it's DEET free.
I don't know what DEET is, Sam.
DEET is. It's
explain what
pesticide.
DEET is.
Yeah. What is it?
DEET is essentially like a pesticide that used to be in a lot of insect repellents that people would apply on them, and it's not good for your health.
You know what I saw on Instagram? I don't know if this works. Everybody's saying vanilla extract is nature's anti-mosquito.
No, what's that? What's
vanilla extract?
No, what's the
Lavender.
scent? No, not lavender.
Citronella.
Citronella.
You can plant some citronella
Vanilla
plants.
extract.
Do
Try
that.
vanilla
Have a great
extract.
weekend.
Plus
See
you
you
smell
Monday.
great.
No,
It's
I had a track.
This is Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about.
Get real.
No.